Hey, this is Antonio. Welcome back to my channel. We're going to have some fighting words. Before we go any further, please like and subscribe. So I'm just going to jump right into it. I said in my last video that I was going to do a fight breakdown for Ugas versus Manny Pacquiao. As we all know, just to give you a little recap, Errol Spence is out, torn retina, had surgery, he's out, Ugas is in. And I just, now we have to do another fight breakdown because totally different opponent. So here we go. The first thing that I've noticed about Ugas is I've been looking over a lot of his tape. He's very big for the division. I've always noticed how big he was. I believe he's bigger than Errol Spence. He's just a big guy. He could easily fight at 154, maybe even 160 if he chose to. And I think he'd be comfortable at both weights. So, how he's cutting down to 147 is pretty impressive, to be honest with you. But when I look at his fighting style, let me first say the things that he does well. First of all, he's come from the Cuban school of boxing, which is like, the Harvard school of boxing, if you would say. I mean, everybody there, they're just, when people come from Cuba, they're just slick. They have great fundamentals. Just their foundation is solid. Ugas is, but the one thing I'll say about Ugas before I get into his strengths, he fights very American. He fights like an American. He doesn't necessarily fight like a Cuban, and later on I'll say how that could affect him. So one of the things that he does well, he has an amazing jab. Ugas hits hard. His jab is like a right hand. He just hits hard. And that's always a plus when you hit hard. Also, I believe he can take a lot of punishment. And where I got this from was like looking at the Sean Porter fight. Sean Porter fought Ugas in a way that he never fights anybody. He didn't even fight Errol Spence the way he fought Ugas. He wasn't up close and personal the whole entire time. He wasn't your typical Sean Porter. He was very reserved because he knew who he was going up against. Ugas is like I said, he's a big guy. He's kind of like a tank for that division. And he's very durable, But one of the things that I really like about Ugas, what he knows how to do is he knows how to smother you without putting himself in harm's way. Most of the time, again, since we're talking about Sean Porter, he'll smother you, but like he's right on top of you. Like he's sandwiched on you. And he's just mauling you. Ugas, he can smother you while keeping distance so that he can get off, but you're at a disadvantage because of his size and his reach, he can basically smother you without you being able to really respond. And he has a great way of walking people down. Like he kind of just goes side to side and he's coming off this way or he's just coming off that way. But there's still space in the middle. Because of his size, he can get away with that. He can literally just kind of crouch over you and basically have a fight from a distance, but really up close. It's kind of weird when I say it like that, but it's really kind of what it is. It's like a distance smothering, I guess you could say. He's not a mauling type of guy. He's a very reserved fighter, which I don't know how that's going to play out against Manny because, you got to be at a certain speed and a certain tempo if you're going to be in a ring with Manny Pacquiao. So I really don't know how that's going to play out. But he definitely has this mode that is very reserved. And again, the Sean Porter fight is actually the perfect fight to look at if you want to see what's going to happen with Manny Pacquiao. Sean Porter does throw a lot of punches. He throws a lot of wild punches, and Manny Pacquiao does throw from a lot of angles, and he throws a lot of punches. Both of them, I do believe Sean Porter might be 5'7" or something like that. So he might be a little bit taller than Manny Pacquiao, but for the most part, not saying that Sean Porter is anything like Manny Pacquiao, but they both do throw a lot of punches and are definitely throwing from a lot of angles. And they're very, very active. From round one to the last round, they're very active fighters. And I think if I were Ugas, or if I was anybody in his position, I would be looking at that Sean Porter fight. I think that would be a a wise choice to make. You're not going to find anybody who's going to duplicate Manny Pacquiao, but you will have a strong reference of what's to come. You got a smaller guy who's going to bring the thunder. He's just going to be throwing rapid fire punches from every angle. He's not going to let up. He's going to try to close the distance. The only difference would be that Manny Pacquiao hits harder than Sean Porter. But everything else, in terms of his height and his reach and his activity and around, it's going to be pretty much the same. So I think Ugas maybe like after round 2, he'd be like, all right, this is kind of familiar. But keep in mind, that was like a while back when he fought Sean Porter. I believe it was like 2-3 years ago, I believe. But maybe even 4, actually. But it's still a good reference for him to look at and say, all right, I know what I did in that fight. I would just have to duplicate that. Another thing that he does well is he's a pretty good body puncher. Ugas is a pretty solid body puncher. I'm not saying he's a Canelo, but I think he could be a Canelo in terms of body punching if he like fully committed to body punching and a full-blown body attack. But when he does hit people to the body, it hurts, and you can see just the facial expression on their faces. It hurts. Like I said, I think he has an amazing jab. I think his height and reach would definitely play a huge point in this fight. Also, just like I said, his durability. Because he's so much of a bigger guy for the division, I think, it could give Manny, it's definitely going to give Manny something to think about when he fights Errol Spence, because they will fight. And Manny has already gone on record and said, hey, brother, you just heal up. We're going to have our dance. So they're definitely going to fight. It will probably, more than likely, it's going to be next year, but they will fight. And I think Ugas is the perfect body type for Manny, for him to be in the right headspace and know what he's going up against when he fights Errol Spence. I'm not saying they fight alike, because Ugas and Errol Spence do not fight anything alike. But in terms of body type, he's tall, he's muscular, he's long range, he has a great foundation, great jab, similar things, but that's about it. Now, when I look at Ugas, one of the things that worries me about this fight would be, one of the biggest concerns I feel like Ugas has is he is so composed. He's so reserved. Like, he doesn't throw a lot of punches around. He doesn't. He's very calculated on what he's going to throw at you. And I'm not saying him coming from Cuba that he doesn't have the skill set to be a matador in the fight with Manny Pacquiao. But looking at recent fights, he needs to pick up the tempo. And honestly, once he gets in the ring, he needs to, from round 1, just impose your size. But Ugas doesn't throw in combinations. That's one of the things I was looking at. I'm like, all right, that's going to be an issue. He does not throw in combinations. It's 1 here, 1, 2, something like that. But he's not doing like bop, 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 and then following up. He's not a Ugas, unless you're hurt, he's not a follow-up guy. He's just not. He's going to point, but he's like catching you in certain spots in hopes that he will tire you down from that one power shot. But you need to pick up the volume with Manny Pacquiao. You need to start it early with Manny Pacquiao. You can't say, all right, round 5, we're going to turn it on. By round 5, you will be badly beaten up, and you won't have what it takes to turn it on if you wait that long to turn it on with Manny Pacquiao. He's not going to wait. Manny Pacquiao is not going to wait. From round 1, he's going to test you. And he's going to try to gain ground. And he's going to try to just cover the ground. You cannot let him do that. Manny has that. He's a small guy, especially for the division, but he has a bully mentality. You cannot let Manny Pacquiao just take ground. You cannot let Manny Pacquiao just tee off on you, because he's going to keep doing it until, the referee stops it, or he's just flat out successful and you're just flat out. You can't do that. So he needs to pick up the tempo. He needs to punch in combinations. I cannot stress that enough. I don't care how hard you hit, unless you're hitting like Adonis Stevenson or Triple G, you need to throw more than 2 punches every sequence of punches, period. I don't care if you fake him. I don't care what you do. But you need to do something like that. So actually, that leads me into my next point. Ugas hardly ever fakes anybody. I don't know if it's because he's so much bigger than most of his opponents, but he doesn't fake anybody. He doesn't give you any different looks. He doesn't do any of that. He just, I get it. If you're bigger than somebody and you don't necessarily feel like you may have to, or, worst comes to worst, I'm more skilled than you, so I don't feel like I have to. But it's good to give somebody different looks. If somebody knows what they're getting into, from, let's just say, you've been fighting, we're in round number 4 or 5, and you keep doing the same thing, you're talking about a veteran. You're talking about a legend. Trust me, he's going to pick up on that by like round 3. And he's going to be expecting that. You will be timed, and you're going to have to handle the consequences of not switching up your looks, not giving feints, not doing anything like this, just doing something different. Ugas has this thing, like I said earlier, about the smothering. He will smother you because he's big and he's wide, and he'll sometimes even open up his arms a little bit, almost to keep you boxed in. Like, no, you're not going over here, you're not going over here, we're going to have this right here. And he'll do that. He'll kind of walk you to the ring, to the ropes, and then he'll kind of just box you in. That's not going to work against Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao is a lot faster than Ugas. He does not have the speed on Manny Pacquiao. Yes, Manny Pacquiao's in his 40s, but Ugas does not have the speed factor on Manny Pacquiao. Also, Ugas is only going to throw, at best, 2 punches, maybe 3, if there's like a firefight between the 2 of them. He's not going to throw that many punches. You're talking about Manny Pacquiao is going to throw about 5 or 6, and he'll follow him up. Forbid out of the 5 or 6, 3 of them land. He will literally follow those up in like midair sometimes. So you can't do that. Number one, you need to tighten up your guard, because trust me, he's coming and he's not going to back down. He does not fear your size. He's been fighting bigger guys his whole career. So it's just nothing new to him. It's literally nothing new to him. It's literally like walking in the park for him at this point. Not to mention, he was already mentally in the mindset of fighting Errol Spence, a guy who's undefeated. So he definitely is not going to fear you. Wonder if there's anything else. And I hope this doesn't seem like I don't believe he's going to be a competitive fight for Manny Pacquiao. Again, my respect for Cuban fighters, I think any Cuban fighter who uses his legs will be more than enough of a challenge for any opponent. More than enough. Because you're talking about Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao sometimes, many times will throw caution to the wind. Once he's in the mood and once he's warmed up, and I'm talking like round 4, 5, 6, 7, he's warmed up and he just starts going, he will run into some things. Because he's that type of guy. He's that type of fighter. He just wants to get his punches off. And he will lunge. Now, if you time him well enough, there could be consequences. You're talking about a guy who's a lot bigger. You're talking about a guy who does hit hard. I don't know if he hits harder than Manny Pacquiao, but he does hit hard. I do know that. Anybody that can keep Sean Porter at bay must hit hard. Danny Garcia didn't do it. Keith Thurman didn't do it. And those two hit hard. And Ugas, he kept Sean Porter at bay. So I still believe it's going to be an interesting matchup. I don't want to lead to anything as of yet to say who I'm giving my prediction to. And I hope this isn't totally making you just think I'm leaning toward Manny Pacquiao. But I got to be honest with you. There's a lot of things about Ugas that concern me. And just the short time frame that he has to train, I don't know if that's going to be sufficient. Yes, I know you've had many fights, and anybody coming through an amateur system, you can just kind of get prepared for somebody. Like, because when you deal with the amateurs, as long as you're in shape, you may not even know who you're fighting, but as long as you're in shape. And he just may have that mindset. He has to have that mindset. It's not like he's going to have a full blown out training camp and, they're doing a great breakdown study on Manny Pacquiao. No, he isn't. He's not doing any of that. You know, he knows who Manny Pacquiao is. He knows who Manny Pacquiao is. And because he knows who he is, he already has that information in his head. And I'm sure his camp and his coaches already have that information in their heads. But did they really have like 3-4 months? No, they don't have 3-4 months to break this down and break down a great strategy or anything like that. I mean, at best, looking at the time that they have left, I'm assuming it's like, Ugas, we just need you to get in the best shape of your life and do what you do. Do what you do. Impose your will. Don't let them get close. Like the obvious stuff. Like I'm just saying, you know, throughout this video. Don't let them get close. You're the bigger guy. Well, speaking of being the bigger guy, let me say this. I don't know why Ugas fights low. He's so much bigger than most of the guys at welterweight. Why are you fighting low? Stand up, use your reach, put your head back. Put that jab out there. Matter of fact, so I've actually recently just kind of switched over in how I do my stance. If you look at a lot of European fighters, they fight from here, leaving that front arm out, extended, as opposed to American fighters. A lot of them bring it in like this. I actually like it out like this because it's closer to the target. But on top of that, there's still space, so you just can't get that close anymore. If I'm like this, you can get a lot closer. But if I'm like this, you really can't. So that's another reason why I like it right there. But he needs to use every bit of leverage that he has. And just being a bigger guy, he has a lot of leverage. He has the size advantage thing is important. From the smaller guys to the heavyweights, it's important. When you don't use it, you're at a disadvantage. You're at a disadvantage. A perfect example, Barrios versus Tank. Barrios was fighting low. Tank is not a tall guy. I don't know why you fought so low and you got down on his level. Don't do that. Manny Pacquiao is not the tallest guy in the world. He has short arms. Take advantage of the fact that he has short arms. Take advantage of the fact that you're much taller than him. Take advantage of the fact that you know most of his punches are going to be leaping in. Now, if they leap in and you're already here, oh, it's easy to cap. Easy. Overhand, 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 all day. Easy. Straight, overhand. I mean, I don't want to say you can't, but you could live off that for the entire fight. If you look at the Floyd fight with Manny Pacquiao, I mean, it was just straight, like everything was a straight. Everything. Like, he lived with that right hand. And he was hit every time he threw it out, he caught it. So if you live just right here, now you're here, but not here, bring it out right here, overhand, right hand. That alone, not saying it's gonna take Manny Pacquiao out or even take him out of his game plan. I'm not saying that. He's a relentless fighter. But what I am saying is you can make it a hard night for him. And you can do so even more than Floyd because you're taller than Floyd. You hit harder than Floyd. So if Floyd gave him a hard night just doing that, imagine what you could do if you stood up straight. If you left your arm out here. If you worked in that overhand, you follow right back up. Trust me, Manny would not be jumping in. After, I believe it was like after round 6, you didn't see Manny Pacquiao jumping in on Floyd Mayweather. So you could implement that strategy. And that's not a hard thing for him to like drill for like 2 weeks or something like that. It's not anything hard to drill, okay? Especially, he's coming from Cuba. They're technicians in the ring. So it's definitely not a hard thing to drill an overhand and a right hand. It's cookie cutter, to be honest with you. But it could be effective. Sometimes it's the simple things in life. It's not always some deep, complex plan. You know, I mean, if you really want to get technical, overhand right and step out. Because you know Manny Pacquiao's all about that footwork. Now he has to reset. He can't do anything unless he resets. So you could do that. And again, I don't feel like that's the hardest thing in the world. I just feel like that's a couple drills every session, to be honest with you. But I don't know. You tell me what you think down below. And as always, like and subscribe.